Commander Vega Chen was having her morning coffee when the universe decided to ruin her day. Again. "Commander," Artemis announced in that insufferably calm voice that all ship AIs seemed programmed with, "we have a problem." Vega didn't look up from her tablet, where she'd been reading the latest intelligence reports from Earth. 3 years hiding in Jupiter's radiation shadow, and somehow the news from home kept getting worse. "Let me guess. The Empire found us?" "Affirmative. Quantum signature bleed detected by consortium scout vessels approximately 14 minutes ago." She finally raised her eyes to the holographic display that materialized above the bridge. Sure enough, 3 sleek consortium ships hung in space like metallic vultures, their sensors trained on the Shadowmere. Behind them, more ships were dropping out of hyperspace every few seconds. "Well, shit." Vega set down her coffee and activated the ship-wide comm, "All hands, this is your captain speaking. Remember that thing we've been preparing for? The thing that's either going to save humanity or get us all killed? Yeah, that's happening now." The Shadowmere was massive, easily 3 kilometers of gunmetal gray hull bristling with what appeared to be weapons arrays. To the consortium, it probably looked like humanity's last desperate gambit. A hidden supercarrier, loaded with enough firepower to level a planet. They weren't entirely wrong. They just didn't understand what kind of war they were actually fighting. "Artemis, how long until the main fleet arrives?" "Admiral Korvex's flagship will arrive in 37 minutes, followed by the remainder of the 7th Battle Group. Total enemy force, 43 vessels." Vega smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "Perfect. Initiate stealth shutdown and power up the dummy weapons systems. Let's give them exactly what they expect to see." Admiral Korvex was having the best day of his career, and he knew it. The human supercarrier hung in space before his fleet like a wounded beast. His tactical officers had run the scans 3 times, and the results were laughably pathetic. Outdated particle cannons, minimal shielding, and life support readings indicating a skeleton crew of maybe 300 humans. "It's almost insulting," he muttered to his first officer. 3 years of intelligence suggesting Earth had some secret weapon, and this is what they give us. The Shadowmere was certainly large, but size meant nothing without proper armament. Korvex's own flagship, the Dominion's Edge, could punch through those antiquated shields with a single volley. Aboard the human vessel, Commander Vega Chen watched the Empire ships arrange themselves in a classic assault formation. "They're really going to try the textbook approach," she mused. "Artemis, are you recording this? Future military academies are going to study this as an example of how overconfidence kills." "Recording all transmissions and tactical movements," the AI confirmed. "Dr. Vasquez is requesting permission to begin final calibrations. Tell Elena she's clear for protocol mirror. And Artemis? Try not to sound so smug when this is over." "I am incapable of smugness, Commander." "Sure you are." Down in the ship's core, Dr. Elena Vasquez ran her hands over the neural interface console that had consumed 3 years of her life. The Shadowmere wasn't really a warship at all. It was the most sophisticated psychological warfare platform ever built, disguised as humanity's last hope. The Empire's greatest strength was also its greatest weakness: total connectivity. Every consortium citizen, soldier, and officer was linked through quantum neural implants that allowed instant communication and shared tactical awareness. It made them devastatingly effective in combat. It also made them vulnerable to exactly the kind of attack Elena had designed. "Elena to bridge," she called through the comm. "Neural amplification arrays are online. Beginning baseline resonance mapping of enemy vessels." The Empire ships had no idea that for the last 20 minutes, they'd been singing to the Shadowmere. Every quantum transmission, every neural link pulse, every thought command passing between their crews was being recorded, analyzed, and catalogued. Admiral Korvex gave the order to attack, and for a moment, everything proceeded exactly as expected. The Dominion's Edge fired its main batteries, sending streams of coherent energy toward the human supercarrier. The Shadowmere's shields flared and failed, just as the tactical computers had predicted. Secondary explosions bloomed along the ship's hull. Then Corvex blinked, and for just an instant, he couldn't remember why they were attacking. "Admiral?" His first officer's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Your orders." Corvex shook his head, dispelling the strange moment of confusion. "Continue firing. I want that ship disabled, not destroyed. Intelligence will want to study their technology." But as the battle continued, the confusion returned. Worse, it was spreading. His tactical officer reported successful hits on target zones that the display clearly showed were already destroyed. His communications officer relayed orders that Corvex was certain he hadn't given. "Something's wrong," he said aloud. On the Shadowmere, Commander Vega watched the Empire formation begin to lose cohesion. Ships were breaking off from planned attack vectors, firing on empty space, or simply drifting as their crews struggled with increasingly contradictory sensory input. "How's it working, Elena?" "Better than we hoped." Dr. Vasquez's voice was tight with concentration. "Their neural networks are fighting each other. Every time Artemis introduces a new variable into their shared consciousness, their implants try to reconcile it with reality. But we're feeding them so many false signals that their brains are starting to reject their own perceptions. And the beautiful part," Artemis added, "is that they can't simply disconnect. Their entire military doctrine relies on quantum neural coordination. Without it, they're just individuals in ships, not a unified fighting force." Vega allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Humanity had spent decades trying to match the Empire's military technology, never quite closing the gap. But Elena's breakthrough had changed the game entirely. Instead of fighting the Empire's strengths, they were using those strengths against them. "Admiral Corvex is attempting to establish direct communication," Artemis reported. "Put him through." The holographic display shifted to show a tall, silver-haired man in an elaborate uniform. He looked confused and more than a little angry. "This is Admiral Corvex of the Consortium's 7th Battle Group. I demand to know what you're doing to my crews." Vega leaned back in her captain's chair. "What we're doing? We're giving you exactly what you asked for, Admiral. A fair fight." "You see," Vega continued, enjoying the look of dawning horror on Corvex's face, "for the past 3 years, everyone assumed the Shadowmere was humanity's secret weapon. A hidden supercarrier that would turn the tide of the war through superior firepower." She gestured at the tactical display, where Empire ships were now firing randomly into space or at each other. "But we realized something important about your people, Admiral. You're not really individuals anymore, are you? You're all connected, all thinking the same thoughts, all following the same neural pathways burned into your brains by that quantum network of yours. That network is what makes us superior," Corvex snarled, though his voice lacked conviction. "Superior at following orders, maybe. But what happens when you can't trust your own perceptions? What happens when every piece of information flowing through that network is suspect?" Dr. Vasquez's voice joined the conversation from the ship's core. "We're not attacking your ships, Admiral. We're attacking something much more fundamental. We're attacking the idea that collective consciousness is always better than individual thought." Corvex's image flickered as his ship's communications system struggled with the cognitive interference. "You're trying to drive us insane." "No," Vega said quietly. "We're trying to make you sane. For the first time in generations, your people are thinking their own thoughts, making their own decisions, questioning their own orders. How does it feel?" Around the Imperial formation, ships were going dark as crews struggled with the psychological liberation that humanity's weapon had forced upon them. Some vessels were fleeing. Others hung motionless as their commanders grappled with the sudden weight of individual choice. "You have a decision to make, Admiral," Vega continued. "You can try to destroy us, try to silence the questions we've awakened in your people. Or you can let them choose for themselves what kind of future they want." Corvex was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Quieter. More human. The Empire will not allow this rebellion to spread. The Empire, Elena interjected, doesn't exist anymore. Not the way it did an hour ago. Every consortium citizen connected to the quantum network has been touched by what we've done here. They're all asking questions they've never been allowed to ask before. Vega stood from her captain's chair. The war isn't over, Admiral. But it's not the war any of us thought we were fighting. The question now is whether your people will choose freedom or security. Individual thought or collective obedience. And us? Corvex asked. What happens to humanity? We keep doing what we've always done, Vega replied with a smile that was equal parts sad and hopeful. We survive. We adapt. We ask uncomfortable questions and refuse to accept easy answers. The communication ended, leaving the bridge of the Shadowmere in relative quiet. Through the viewports, they could see the Imperial fleet slowly regrouping, but the tight formations and coordinated movements were gone. Each ship now moved with the hesitant, individual purpose of crews thinking for themselves. Artemis, Vega said finally, send a message to Earth. Tell them the gambit worked. The Empire's greatest weapon has become its greatest weakness. And our next move? Vega picked up her coffee cup, found it cold, and grimaced. We go home. Let the philosophers and politicians figure out what comes next. Our job here is done. The Shadowmere turned away from Jupiter's radiation shadow and began its long journey back to Earth, leaving behind an empire that would never again be quite so certain of its own reality.